Let's look at what Joe Rogan is saying. I think this is so spot on, and this really gives us the insight that we really need to really understand what we see with people and their deals and their multi-million-dollar deals and all the things that they have going on. But it's really just because of your name. It's just because of something so superficial, so not really directly related to actually having some talent. It's related to that superficialities of the world that we see. Let's get into it. YouTubers, welcome to my channel. Hope you're doing well today. Well, what are we talking about today? It is very interesting. It has come together for me, this topic, very organically. I've gotten a few emails from people. I saw a few things come out in the news, and then just other things that I'm seeing around radio and podcasting when I'm watching just regular television, and I'm thinking, wow, well, I've got my subject. I know what I'm talking about next time. And we're talking about this whole Spotify around Meghan and the issues around her not even really doing the work. But we're going to get to that later. Joe Rogan says that Meghan could bail on Spotify like Harry. Yes. You know, you just kind of look at people's behavior. You look at the choices that they make to really understand, oh yeah, you're going to do this because you've seen them in their glory of making choices. And the thing that we have seen the most with Meghan in particular is how she doesn't really commit to anything. We look at her past relationships with her friends. We look at her relationship with her family, her ex-husband, her current husband and his family. There is no commitment. There is no hanging in there to do what needs to be done because I just have to do the right thing. No, she doesn't have to do the right thing. She doesn't have to do the thing that shows that she's going to struggle through something despite just, okay, you get on my nerves. Or I'm bored, or I need to get higher on that ladder. It's always this constant movement to the next best thing. There's no having something, retaining it for the sake of longevity and making it better and working on it to get that something that come out of something long term. This is why she doesn't have the long history of relationships that really show the kind of person she really is. So all we really have to see the kind of person she is the choices that she has made since she's really come into the public eye. And that is really essentially the most consistent thing we're seeing. Oh, you gonna bail. Oh, you gonna leave. Oh, yep, I knew it. It's time to leave the Royals because we know you have a history. That's what you do. You don't hang in there long term to do what you gotta do. Like you said, you were going to do during the interview. Meghan, she's going to bail. She's not going to stay in with Harry. She's going to leave him. But it wasn't just her leaving her husband. It was all the other relationships that she also bailed on. We knew that they were leaving the royal family. We knew that they weren't going to stay in there and do what they were going to do, what they said during that interview, that engagement interview. We just knew it. Look, you just show me the interview that you did, and I'll tell you what's going to happen 4 years from now. And that's what happened. So Joe Rogan is giving us the 411 on how things work. So he says that celebrities who start podcasts, they can't keep up. They bail, like Meghan Markle's. Yeah, like she bails. She cannot let her personality come out. And you saw when she did that little promo for the podcast, like you're going to see the real Meghan. You're going to see the real me. Talking like, when her whispers are long breaths. And when she speaks, it's me. I'm the real Meghan. No, you ain't. You ain't the real nothing. You the fake everything. You're not even trying to come off as somebody who's relatable during the podcast. So Meghan's podcast Archetypes, it dropped around a year and a half after the Duke and the Duchess of Sussex Spotify deal was first announced, and it's on its 10th episode. And this is the thing, they were working on the Spotify deal in the royal family, working, mind you, and saying we're going to be full go, working, hit the ground running after we got married. And then what? The whole time plotting and planning this Spotify deal because they knew they weren't going to stay, but going to lie and tell people that we are staying. We're going to help the queen. They weren't even thinking about the queen. They were like, we're going to kick her to the curb and we're going to go do us, Harry. That's what she was saying to him on those late nights. You know, like, yeah, we're going to lead them, aren't we? You know. So Rogan said listeners got a sense of what a person is like after a while and added, that's why a lot of these celebrities that start these things, they can't keep up. I guess she's doing it now, but Bruce Springsteen and Obama's was doing one for a while. Terrible. Describing the U.S. president's podcast, Joe Rogan said, you just can't keep faking it. It's too hard. That is the problem. And Meghan is trying to do something that you really can't do it the way she's doing it, because do you know how many people produce her podcast? When I saw that, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, well, that is crazy. Because if you guys don't know, I have 2 podcasts. Yes, I have 2. And I certainly don't have a team like this. And they took forever getting this podcast out there. And she's got like, I think 100 people working on this podcast. What does that tell you? That tells you that she doesn't really do the work to put that podcast out there. And that is what has recently come up, but I'm going to get to that. So the statement read, last April, our co-founders began expressing concerns to our partners at Spotify about the all too real consequences of COVID-19 misinformation on its platform. So remember when Meghan was talking about, well, I'm not sure about Spotify because, you know, Joe Rogan, he's saying all these things with misinformation, and there was this big hoopla around it, like she wanted to make herself seem so, you know, I've got to be somewhere where things are respected, putting this high standard on something, because that's the attitude, that's the uppity attitude that she has. It goes on to say that we have continued to express our concerns to Spotify to ensure changes to its platform are made to help address this public health crisis. We look to Spotify to meet this moment and are committed to continuing our work together as it does. This is what Meghan and Harry were saying when they had all these concerns about the things that Joe Rogan was saying during that whole thing with the pandemic. Okay, so Rogan said in an Instagram post at the time, the podcast has been accused of spreading dangerous misinformation, specifically about 2. One with Dr. Peter McCullough and one with Dr. Robert Malone. Both these people are highly credentialed, very intelligent, very accomplished people, and they have an opinion that's different from the mainstream narrative. I wanted to hear what their opinion is. And this is the thing, Joe Rogan, when you watch his podcast, like he's sitting there, he's talking with his guests. He is speaking with them. He has some very interesting people on, and this is why people really like listening to him, because it's off the beaten path. He's talking to people that you don't always hear in mainstream media, and he asks really simple, very intriguing questions, and there's this conversation. You feel like you're eavesdropping in on 2 people talking, and it's very relaxing, it's very informative. It holds your thought process as you're listening, because it's like, okay, wow, this is really interesting. And this is the connection that he has, and this is why he is number 1. And that whole thing when Meghan came up and she knocked him off of being number 1, that was simply for people to see, well, what's she gonna say? What's it going to be like? The girl that waited over almost 2 years to put this podcast out. And then people wanted to listen out of curiosity. But where is she now? It's dropped down now to 24. And they have different subtitles for their podcast. This other category she's in is actually at 42. Now, to be fair, it has continued to climb, but it's still a long way to get to number 1 still, considering she was at number 1 when it first came out, and now people are just not tuning back in to listen to it. And I mean, I can understand why. It really is hard to listen to, because you hear the pretentiousness in her voice. You hear the fake and the it's just like, girl, stop. Just stop. Why you have to be so fake? Just talk. And this is what you cannot fake. This is what Joe Rogan is talking about. You can't keep something like this going and be fake. People sense it. People don't want to listen to it because it's too cringy. But people listen to Joe Rogan because it's the real deal. It's two people, you feel like you're eavesdropping in on their conversation. With Meghan and what she's trying to do, you know she's only talking about things that people have actually called her. Okay, first of all, it's nothing really interesting that she's speaking about. The tone, the inflections, the cadence in her voice, the long breaths, pauses, it just reeks of fake. And like trying to tell people like, well, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. You need to be better, folks. You know, it's like people don't want to be preached at. Go talk or give something uplifting. But the constant complaining is another problem that she has. It seems like the branding that she and Harry are doing is having something that they can complain about to make themselves relevant and interesting because they don't have no talent. They don't have the skills to do what they need to do to be successful in their own right. Instead, they have to pick on people. And this gets me to the point about the podcast. Apparently, Meghan is actually not even interviewing the people that she is talking with, the ones that are not the celebrities. Because think about it, when you watch her promo, you see her talking there and there's talking about the real Meghan, but you never see the people that she's speaking with. You only see her. So she is not even interviewing the people directly. She is actually cutting in questions and saying things to the responses of her guests that her producers have already gotten the information. They're the ones interviewing her guests. Now, Spotify is paying this woman, I heard, like $18 million. $18 million. And you can't even ask the questions? You can't even have the decency to sit there and talk and get to know your guests and to take in the real conversation with people that you're getting paid that much money for? There is something wrong. So you can get that much money for not even doing the work. This is why she wants that title, folks. This is why she wants to hold on to that Duchess, because it is the Duchess that gets her in the door, not her own talent. Something is wrong. But that's on Spotify. You know, you want to pay somebody that much money, they don't have no talent, and you just want to use them. They're a part of royalty with no talent. This is what you get. You get people that can't even do the basics. I've interviewed so far already Rose, Lady C, Thomas Markle, people when I have Paula, and I've had Royal Daily Tea and Sue Smith on my channel. Like, we talk, and when they're on my channel, I'm tending to take the interviewer role. That's what you do when it's your platform. Archetypes is Meghan's platform. She needs to be doing part of the work because there's something missing. I've often wondered what it was about the podcast when I could get the strength up to even listen to 5 minutes of it. It's jumpy. There's these intercuts. There's no real linear consistency of the information. It hops around a lot. And this is why they're producing it, making it sound good with the sound effects, the audio levels, the back and forth, because this is something that Meghan is not able to do when she sits down to even do the podcast, folks. It has come out and she's busted. I wonder if they're going to lose their jobs now, the producers that have been talking about all the work that they do. This came out most recently with the producer talking about they don't get the credit for all the work that they do. She went on to say it's not the talent, it's not the directors, it's really the producers who are the ones that are being overlooked. And I'd have to agree. You know, you give someone like a Meghan that much money to do a podcast, but yet you're paying someone else to really do the work. I mean, there's something wrong if you can't get somebody that has some talent that you're paying $18 million to. Something's wrong. Something is wrong.